guys nearly pulled it off in the second half, but I guess it was too much of a deficit from the first half performance and scoreboard as well.
Exactly that, Ashfaq. You can't play against the international team, the caliber of players they have. And, we played with 14 men, and in that time we conceded 21 points. And, once you're 24/7 down, it makes it very, very difficult. But I am still very, very proud, Ashfaq. At 31-7, we could have quite easily gone the other way. And you've seen how a lot of the teams, the back end of this competition, have blown other teams away. And to literally get the last player of the game turned over in the 22 is obviously something that I'm really happy about. But I must stress, and I'm obviously very disappointed because we came here with a group that I thought would be good enough to actually beat Edinburgh. So the boys a little bit disappointed.
I guess part of the frustration is that we all know this team is so much better than what they produced today. I mean, they did it just last week in Bayonne, hostile crowd environment, knockout game. And I guess we expected a similar kind of performance, but that first off, it just seemed like nothing seemed to go your way with regards to either your own mistakes or some decisions going against you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to now say that the team is, like you mentioned, that we're frustrated because we've won 6 out of 11 away games. And literally today was another example that we can win away from home. And we're going to have to do that if we want to win competitions in the next couple of years. But it didn't go away. First off, as I said, you can't concede 14 points in the first 10, 11 minutes with 14 men on the field against a team like this. I mean, they've got internationals, right through their squad. And they've just come off Six Nations, which means those guys have played against England, Ireland, France. I mean, they're obviously very, very game ready and battled hard. And so we just made it difficult for ourselves, Ashfaq. It was, as I said, it's just disappointing because I genuinely thought that, especially with the bench we had, it was almost like we ran out of time. And, it's like anything, we'd play another 5 more minutes. I've got no doubt we end up winning that game.
Thank you, Lunga. Afternoon, Jake. Commiserations with the result, but you must be proud of the effort of the bench that came on. That second half was really an impact where guys like Kane and Moody, Johan Goosen, all of them made a very big impact in that second 40.
Yeah, I mean, I am. And Angus, I've said it a long time now. We've missed a lot of guys. Kirtley, Kane, and Johan Goosen. And, our attack is one of our strengths. And we've lacked a little bit of polish without those guys. So to get them on the field, and I mean, Kanan and Goosen, and even Emmy at the end, I didn't give him a lot of time, but even Emmy at the end there, was obviously a lot sharper. And it's nice to know that you've got a bench. But credit to the other players too. I mean, they got us back into the game after starting poorly. And there are a lot of things. I mean, we had about 4 or 5 chances in their 22 where we just didn't finish, either threw the ball in skew, lost the line out, maybe got a delivery wrong, double banked once when we set up a nice maul. And I think everyone would learn and everyone would know that you can't play in these knockout games and when you're 5 meters from the try line 3 or 4 times not come away without any try.
Yeah, and looking towards the URC now, obviously you got a good position still in that competition, and with all these guys back, it must give you a nice selection headache to know that these guys are back on form again, and you can select them now for the upcoming matches heading towards the playoffs.
Yeah, that is a massive positive. A lot of guys coming back now, they'll enjoy the fact that they got some good game time and they played well. But we're still very disappointed, Angus. I think people realize, and I'm sure you do, that the Bulls want to win every time they play in a competition. That's why we brought the team we did. That's why we've done the things we've done by, staying in Biarritz, preparing properly. So there'll be a huge amount of disappointment. And all I can expect next week is that we kick on from the second half in terms of what we did today, because it's not going to get any easier. Munster away. And then Glasgow, who are the reigning champions of URC. Those are the next 2 weekends we have. So, it's not like it's going to get any easier for us as a group.
And just lastly from my side, the change at number 10, in the second half with Johan Goosen replacing Keegan Johannes. What was the thought process and into that decision?
Oh, the thought process is very simple, Angus. He's our number 1, number 10. He's come back from a long injury, and I basically blooded him. He played 20 minutes and then 30 minutes. And sorry, I think he played 20 minutes or 30 minutes last week and 40 minutes this week. So, you look at a guy like Ruan Nokia, the same, 20 minutes the first week, 40 last week, 60 this week. And that's part of also being aware of the fact that not everyone is 80-minute game ready. But yeah, it's wonderful to have him back. You know how much I rate him. You know how much I talk about him in terms of how we want to play. And to have him 40 minutes in a game where our backs were against the wall, I think he showed everybody just how important he is to us at the Bulls.
Hi, Jake. Yeah, sorry about that result. I was just wondering, that first half, the players looked a bit almost dead on their feet, a bit lethargic. Do you think the traveling from Biarritz, did it have any effect? I'm not sure about the altitude and all that, about the two countries. Was that maybe a mistake?
You don't get a yellow card because you flew yesterday.
No, I'm talking about lethargic. They looked a bit tired.
We were lethargic because we basically conceded 14 points in 7 minutes. First line out, we knocked it on. Then they got a scrum. They kicked it through. We got charged down. Then we got a yellow card after we were up the field. So it's I really don't think it's got anything to do with. We've been very well looked after in MVA.
Yeah.
We live in Biarritz on the beach. Our preparation was outstanding. We get the ability to train on 4G pitches and on grass. Coming in was seamless yesterday. Charter aeroplane, landed in Edinburgh, straight through customs. Not long queues, back to the hotel. Straight from the airport into our captain's practice. So I suppose what I'm saying, MV, lethargic in the first, but outstanding in the second. So I don't really think I don't think it's got anything to do with our travel.
Just one thing about what I noticed about Edinburgh, they marked certain players. Cameron Hanekom couldn't move, for anything. 2 players tackling him, they targeted him quite clearly, and they almost took him out of the game. Did you see that coming, and any plans to sort of counter that, because he's a pivotal player for you guys?
It's funny that you say that. He was he tried everything, and he was running as hard as he could, and the only plan I have is age. Age. It's going to come with time. That's what happens to all players. Happened to Kanan Moody when he arrived. No one knew who he was. As soon as they knew who he was, they marked him. And those are the best players in the world. They get marked, and the way they got to grow is they got to find a way in which they can play even when people start putting 2-3 players on him. And I think he got better and better as the game went on. But it is an international team. Like I say it again, they've just come out of Six Nations. It's now April. They played Six Nations February, March. Means they've been playing at the highest level they can in the last 2 months, and they've obviously brought that intensity, that understanding, and that cohesion that they've had with the Scottish team into their campaign now for the EPCR. So yeah, I know I say it to you, but it'll come with time. It's not something that you can't fast forward that. He'll get better, he'll get stronger, he'll understand. He's going to find a way in which he can counter the fact that people will start putting people on him to make sure they put him under pressure. So that is no different to any young player who comes through the ranks.
One last thing, Kanan Moody seems to be the old Kanan Moody. Brilliant game that he played. That's good. That must be good news for you.
Unbelievable. So I don't want you to write anything about buffets and things anymore, please, guys.
It wasn't me.
No, again, I always say it. He's got class, and he's been out for a while, and to have him back, all the touches he had today were outstanding, and I'm happy for him because there's an example too, MVA. He went through a stage where when he came in, back into the team after international rugby, people know who he is, and he played against, international wingers. So for him to create the space and opportunities he did, and that sort of thing is going to give him massive amounts of confidence. So yeah, I say it again, we're really disappointed, MV. I know we're disappointed because we really wanted to win this game, and you could see by the way we fought until the last minute, till the 80th minute, that this team genuinely wants to win trophies. And what more can a coach want 31-7 down and you lose with the last play of the game, with a turnover in the opposition 22. And there isn't a nice way to lose, but there's a lot of positives we can take out of that game.
All right, Jack. Nick, good luck for next week.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jake, again, we can say it's not the end of the season, but I mean, every loss now is not good for your preparations for the end of the season. Munster is having quite a tough game at this moment. So how many injuries do you have?
No, we don't have any, I don't think, Carl. There's bumps and bruises and guys that, were cramping up and that sort of stuff. And I took them off because of the fact that we had such a tough schedule. But, this one hurts more than any other game because you're out of a competition. The others, you're still alive. As I said, we need to make the last 3 games of the URC, and then we've got to make sure our best team is available and can play their best rugby. So, it's not quite the same next week and the following week, because this week means you're gone. And that always, as a Bulls team, we pride ourselves, not me, the club, the supporters, the ex-players. The club's much bigger than anybody, and we want to make sure we can win tournaments. So we'd feel a lot more disappointed today, having lost this game than, because I've mentioned to you many times, Cole, the last 3 games of every competition are the ones you need to have your best squad on the field and play your best rugby. And, today was a quarter-final, and would have meant there were 2 games left after this. And we showed that in 30 minutes, the last 30 minutes of today's game, that we're good enough to win against any opposition. It's just we need to find 80 minutes of good rugby.
So how difficult will it be to balance your need to win with your need to preserve your players up for the final 3 matches?
Yeah, that's. I mean, I said it to you last week. That's the challenge, the mixing and matching and the preserving of certain guys and the creating game time for them. And that's why I'm really, I'm saying I'm happy about the fact that we had to take some guys off. Where would you take, a guy like Ruan Nokia off in a game where he's the lineout caller, Springbok, we can't afford to do that but there's a bigger picture. I mean, I need to look after him too. I can't expect him to come back after a long injury and play 80 minutes. As much as I'd love to have kept him on the field, same as Will Gallo, he can't play 80 minutes. The same as, Caden Moody needed to get on the field. So it's a juggling act, and sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. I genuinely think that maybe if I'd started with the other group, maybe we would have. But then I might have been standing here saying we ran out of puff at the end because our bench, wasn't as good as what I thought it would be. So there's no right or wrong call. I mean, today's result didn't come from anything other than the fact that we gave them 14 points in the first half and 7 in the second half, because we got 2 yellow cards at a very crucial time.
Hoe som jy die wedstryd op vandag, meneer? En kan ek net vra, ek 'n bietjie laat aangesluit, sê jy vir my dat jy moontlik jou sommetjies dalk verkeerd gehad oor wanneer jy jou bank moes aangewend het?
Nee, ek het dit nie gesê nie. Ek het laat ingekom, maar ek het dit nie gesê nie. Ek het gesê as ek dit anders te omgedoen het, wie weet, miskien het ons met ons bank nie sterk genoeg geëindig nie. En daar's nie 'n reg en verkeerde manier nie. Ek is baie teleurgesteld. Die feit is ons wil eintlik hierdie toernooi gewen het. Ons wil elke toernooi wen wat ons speel. Die bulle, soos jy weet, die ondersteuners, die ou spelers, jy weet almal wat deel is van die bulle, dis 'n druk wat ons sal altyd kry. Die verwagting van almal is ons wil elke beker wen. So ons is teleurgestel met hierdie jy weet uitslag. En dis nie 'n kwessie van, ek dink ons het net ons eie foute gemaak. Jy weet, jy kan nie 21 punte gee met 14 manne op die veld en verwag jy gaan teen 'n internasionale span. I mean, heel wat van daai spelers het in die 6 nasies gespeel, teen Engeland, teen Ierland, teen Frankryk. En daar was nie 'n kans nie dat hulle sou opgehou het met die druk wat hulle vir ons gegee het in die eerste helfte nie. So ek is baie teleurgestel, maar ek moet vir jou sê ek is ook baie trots met die feit dat tot die laaste beweging was daar 'n kans dat die bulle die game kon gewen het. En as jy terugdink, 31-7 agter, was baie spanne wat dan van daar af 'n pak sou gekry het. So ja, ek wil altyd wen. Ek wil die spelers, jy weet, kry om elke game te wen. Ek wil die spelers laat leer dat verwagting van ons kant af is ons moet wen. En ons is nou, soos ek sê, teleurgesteld, maar jy weet, hopelik sal ons volgende week 'n game speel wat almal weer gaan trots wees.
Jy het gevra Jake om dit op te som, om dit klaar te maak. Jy het gesê daar is 'n positiewe kant, is dat nou kan jy natuurlik voorberei vir wat in die URC moet gebeur, meneer.
Ja, maar Percival, ek het dit nie gesê nie, ek gaan dit weer sê. Ons wil elke game voorberei om te wen. Het niks te doen, nou kan ons het van die eerste week teen Edinburgh het ons gefokus op die URC. En ons het van die eerste week in Champions Cup gefokus om Champions Cup te wen. En toe ons uit was van die eerste game het ons besluit en gefokus om die Challenge Cup te wen. So dis nie 'n kwessie van, jy weet, baie coaches of baie ander spanne sal vir jou sê, okay, nou kan ons, maar dis nie waar in die bulle nie. Ons het van die dag wat ons ingeskryf het vir hierdie toernooi het besluit, ons wil ons beste doen en alles wen as ons kan. So ja, dis nie 'n gegewe nie of 'n iewes skielik is dit nou van my kant af. Nee, nou kan ons fokus op die ander toernooie. Die ander toernooie wat ons speel, al is dit die Currie-beker, al is dit die Super Rugby Unlocked, as dit, jy weet, URC is, Challenge Cup, Champions Cup. Ons verwagtinge van ons kant af is die bulle moet probeer om elke game, elke keer as hulle die Bulls-stryd dra om games te wen.
So just to confirm, you guys are going back to Biarritz again, eh?
Yes. Yes, Percival. I mean, I think it would also be, I just tell you, we are a very fortunate club. You know, we got shareholders and CEOs and presidents. I mean, we've based ourselves there. We've been looked after. Flip van der Merwe, an ex-Bulls player who's involved and was involved for a while at Biarritz, has gone out of his way. We get great facilities, great location, you know, and the board and our leadership have allowed us to go back and forth to Biarritz because it could quite possibly have been a 5-week tour. And I think, you know, to be fair to the players, if they're going to be away for 5 weeks, the least we can do as a club is make sure that they have, you know, the best that we can give them. So very, very fortunate, very, very thankful. And again, very disappointed because it wasn't through travel or, you know, any other circumstances except for our own doing that we didn't get a result tonight.
Jake, you did mention the lineouts and maybe if you're going too high or not straight. I know, I think Ruan Nakir was calling them and Akka was throwing in what that just wasn't quite the standard that the Bulls normally have. You guys normally dominate the lineouts. What would you put it down to today?
Opposition. I mean, it's as simple as that, Nicholas. We're talking about, you know, opposition team that have just come. They all play for Scotland. You know, it was. And we just weren't accurate, and that also happens. Sometimes it happens, you know. It's they put pressure on us there. We, you know, and then we didn't execute. The very first line out, we got it and we knocked it on. The second line out, we chucked it in and we double banked. And then the third line out, you know, we got held up in the air. And so it's quality of the opposition, quality of the analysis. And we probably didn't adapt quick enough in the first half to understand what was happening. You know, good teams, and again, this is where we can take it as a criticism and a positive criticism. Good teams find a way in the first 40 minutes to try and adapt to the way things are unfolding. And we took us 50 minutes, you know, and that unfortunately is one of the differences between teams that end up winning big competitions and teams that get there and thereabouts. So had we adapted the first 20 minutes like we did in the last 30 minutes, I'm sure that we would have seen a completely different shape. So the game just, I mean, as I said, we just ran out of time.
Hey, Coach Jake, sorry for the loss. You've mentioned it a couple of times when you said about the former players, obviously the board, and I'm a former player, and I think from my perspective, if you look at that first half and you look at the guys playing compared to last week, there was a lack of a willingness to win in the game. So what do you think was the biggest difference from the first half's team compared to the guys that came on the second half, which made a big difference? I mean, it's a quarterfinal. Was there enough spark for the guys to win this game for the Bulls and to go through a quarterfinal?
Yeah, Ronaldo, I mean, again, I don't know if I agree that there was a less of a willingness in the beginning. I think you played rugby, you'll understand. 14 minutes, played with 14 men literally from the beginning of the game and gave them 14-point start. And we didn't touch the ball. I mean, every time we basically defended just like they did at the end of the game. They couldn't get out of their 22, and that showed how advantageous that was when you put teams under pressure in the 22. So I just think we just couldn't get our hands on the ball. When we did, we got charged down. When we got into their 22, as I said, we double banked or we got held up once. I think we jumped and we turned the ball over on their try line when Biarritz knocked it on. So don't for 1 minute think that there was a different mindset between the first group and the second group. It's just the game shape and the game, I suppose, tempo and the game sort of stop-start versus a little bit more flow. They didn't allow us to get our hands on the ball and keep the ball. When you saw what happened just before halftime, we were again on their 22, and we knocked it on again and went into the halftime sheds, having had a chance there to score again. So, as I said, I don't think it was anything to do with lack of winning or lack of desire or anything that was uncontrollable. I think it was the way they played. They put us under pressure. We probably didn't adapt as quickly as we could. And then it took us 50 minutes to find a way in which we could put them under pressure. But, we just ran out of time. Sometimes it happens in rugby. Had that game gone another 5 minutes, I've got no doubt that we had them with their backs against the wall.